Hey guys, welcome. Hopefully you are staying safe and sound. And this week will be a good week for everybody. It's still unfortunate what's going on in today's society. It's just sometimes I wake up and forget what's actually happening. The only good thing out of all this is I'm pretty busy at my first job. Usually get up about 6:30, 7 o'clock, start working. I have calls at 7:30 in the morning right away with my teams, and usually work till about 4 or 5. And then I start doing stuff here for the school. And so my day goes by pretty quick. The only thing is I'm gaining time on the travel that I don't have to go to the city. But important thing is I'm keeping so busy that I'm distracted from what's really happening. And then once I kind of get the news a little bit, then I'm like, what the heck is going on? So it's scary. I've been doing very minimal travel, go pick up food, or I have been going to the chiropractor a couple times here and there, but other than that, it's been pretty solid keeping my distance. Kind of had like a crazy moment. Went to pick up food and someone jumped on my food. And so I was kind of all over them on that, so that's interesting. Anyways, so I should have did a Zoom meeting, but I didn't. But anyways, just real quick, so if there's anything that you want to talk to me about, same thing if you need to schedule an appointment, schedule it the normal way. We'll meet through Zoom. I'll send you a Zoom meeting invite, and hopefully you guys can hear me because there's a lot of noises in the back. Families watching Back to the Future. So anyways, you can schedule an appointment. We could talk like this via conference, go over something that you're having a problem with, and go from there. It's the best support I can provide, and I'm happy to do it. So anyways, hopefully this past week, I was looking at the chat there, stuff that you guys were sending through. Hopefully you were able to get something out of this week by you teaching me something, and I taught you something. I like that. A lot of times I don't want to sit in class and lecture and laugh for the whole time. I like the idea is for you to learn something, but I want to see that you are learning something. And that's another thing that we're going to do this week. I'm taking a different approach to this. In the past, when I taught unit testing, it would be like the standard thing. I give you a lecture, I show you how to do it. Previously, when I did advanced programming, in 2018, that's what I did. I used Jasmine was one of the unit testings. I provided the class. We went through the whole process. We learned it, whatever. But I want to try something a little bit different, and I'm looking for your opinion on how you find it. And I want it to be this assignment to be a little bit more unique than traditionally. So before we actually go through what I'm talking about, let me pull up Point Park real quick and go from there. So go to courses, and then we go to, there you are. And so, where are we at? Unit testing. All right. So as you see here, it's going to be a little bit different. So you're going to have a summary this week, but your assignment, the beef of your points, is through a discussion. So 100 points for the initial post, which is going to be a video. Record it. It would be easier if you throw it up on YouTube or Vimeo and just post it. But if you have it saved as an MPEG or whatever you upload it, that's fine. Second post is 25 points, and then a third post is 25 points as well. What that means is there are different frameworks for testing JavaScript. Some support NPM, and that's one that we're really familiar with, which is for Node. But the other ones support Yarn, which we haven't talked about Yarn. We haven't utilized Yarn, but it's similar to NPM. If you ever Google Docker sometime, and you could use NPM, but a lot of people use Yarn for that. So anyways, so there's all these different frameworks that you can use that can be very beneficial, and they all have advantages over other ones, advantages versus disadvantages. But let's talk about what unit testing actually is. And I'd like to ask you, but we'll pause for silence and see what we get. Just give me a second here. I'm not gonna get anything, but because nobody is on. once again, does anyone know what testing is? What is unit testing? All right, that's pretty good. That's my crowd talking to me. All right, sounds like we're at a baseball game. All right, so you're right. So unit testing is a form of testing your software. So we talked about Agile and we talked about Waterfall. This kind of falls into Agile a lot. It could fall in Waterfall as well. But usually Agile, or even Waterfall, I guess, you'll have a QA person. And a QA is quality assurance. And a lot of times people think, oh, that person is a QA person, they're not really a software developer. But that's unlikely, that's incorrect. A lot of times these people are, they have a degree in software development and they were a software engineer, but maybe they prefer to do this way versus that way. They might not like to be on hands where they're writing front-end code and back-end code on a daily basis where it just gets to be too much, and they prefer to be the person to test it. And that's usually the person that we dislike in the office because we're very passionate about our code and we know that our code is the way it is and we enjoy it. But a lot of times you'll find that they'll attack your code, they'll abuse your code, they'll be like, oh, this is a piece of crap code, why'd you do this, why'd you do that? You start to hate them. Not real, but it's just a little offensive out of it. But anyways, so they have these different unit testing, and in a lot of cases, maybe I'd say early on in my career, our unit test was my boss would say, hey Jeff, we need to develop this screen to do X, Y, and Z. All right, I'd develop it, I'd test it, I'd show it to him, and he'd be like, or her, and they'd be like, okay, looks good, let's move it to production. That's how it was. Then they found by changing that pattern, having that pattern in place was opening yourself up for holes and bugs and stuff like that could happen later on. We found that in different places I worked at where sometimes people would not use a process to move it in. They would just hurry up, move it in, or I give you an example. I worked for a company. One of the interview questions was, what do you know about source control? I told them, but they asked a lot of things about source control, and I thought they'd ask more hard questions about software development and maybe even give me a code quiz. Nope, they were worried about source control, and the reason being is they didn't have no source control in place. So they were going directly on the physical production box, coding a change, saving it, and implementing it, which is wrong completely. So it's not the approach that you want to take. It's not an effective approach, and it can have a lot of problems with it. So it doesn't effectively help your code in any manner at all. So with that said, you have to use source control, which is common, but there are also things called change management, which are controls that allow you to manage your programming code, manage your environments we're doing a lot of stuff in dev environment, and you have maybe a staging or test environment, and then you have a production environment. So we're doing a lot of stuff in these lower tier environments. But I'll give you another example. So we get this huge change going in. One of the teams I manage at my other job called secrets management. And so secrets management is, we have a product that we have released to all these different services within the organization. And it's a way to kind of it kind of works like, what's the name of that app? Like a password vault in a sense, where it stores your password. So that's kind of what we're doing, is we have our own form of security that we use that, that people store their information in, and it keeps it and runs security scans on it and all this stuff. It's all good. And so we have this huge thing going in. So I put a change request in the other day, yesterday to be exact. And that change request is, once it is approved, if it ever is approved, it allows us to make a change to the production environment. So we have a series of different questions that we have to follow before doing this. Some of those questions are, what is your change? Why are you doing the change? What is the impact analysis of the change? What's the change description? The more specific information. And then let's say that hypothetically it doesn't work out. So what's your backup plan? So if something would fail, how will you stop it? How will you back it out and roll it back to a previous state? I give you a real example that happened. So this is a cluster F, I'll put it that way. So this one group reached out to me back in January and said, hey, we want to do a TLS update, which is a transport security layer. So it's updating it from one version to other version. So right now in the internet world, 1.1 is being deprecated this year, and they're moving it to 1.2. So reach out to me, and I told them, I said, we'll talk about it. We'll come up with a decision. We'll meet about it. Well, I didn't hear no more for them, and I'm so busy that I didn't even think about following up with them. So this past weekend, I had my cell phone off. It went off, and I happened to log in on a Sunday night for some reason to check something, and I seen all these emails. And you know what they did? Is they decided to go live with the promotion. So they didn't even ask for my permission. They didn't do something called a change of management. They just went live, and they didn't consult with me. And we use Nginx just like we do here at the college. We use it as a reverse proxy so that our one server, the two servers that we're using here for that one application, has to communicate with that. And if it does communicate with the Nginx server, it's not going to work. Well, they didn't know that. So they went ahead and applied their changes anyways. And guess what happened? It blew up. So they were calling my phone at 11 in the morning from India. And I had 5 voicemails. And so eventually my employee in India, she was able to get on, and then she was able to get my boss on, and they were able to figure it out. They had to roll it back to the previous version. But the problem is they didn't consult with us, and we weren't able to be able to kind of brainstorm what solutions that we could come up with. They kind of just went with it. And that is why, and this whole story has a conclusion, that is why you need testing. If the testing is there, all the other pieces of the puzzle will follow, and you won't have any problems. And the nice thing about change management is you have documentation showing that on this day and date, this person did this, that person did that. Everyone's butt is covered. When you don't have that, bad things could happen. So that's the reason you have all those processes in place. Prevent that. All right, so this is a reason for testing. So what I'm looking for you guys is to, and ladies, is provide me a video presentation. So we're going to go through some different JavaScripts here. So unit testing, there's a bunch of different ones. Now these are ones that I've found. Now there's other ones. I've used this one here before. There are other ones that you can mess around with it, but I want you to pick the one that you want. I don't care if everyone picks the same one, but the idea is for you to look at one. You can do it, and then next week, just provide a video showing in your what do you call it here? You'll push a video into here and talk about what you came up with, and talk about what did you get out of it positive. What was the positive feedback that you got from using X, Y, and Z service, and what was the negatives about it, and did you look at other ones, and what made you think that this one worked? And if you tried it, include that in your video. And that's what we're looking for, everyone. And then we're looking for people to reply to other people's things. So maybe let's say that Abraham and Sammy do Jasmine, for example. They'll both have a different conversation because they both research each one, so they might have a different view from it. Versus maybe Zach and Bryce might have a different opinion than Sabrina. So it just depends. And I won't leave Riley out. So let's see here. So we have UnitJS. So if you click on it here, it's a unit test framework for JavaScript. Most of these are NPM enabled, which is nice. So you have that flexibility. So there's documentation that goes with that one. I haven't played with that one. There's QUnit, another one that I'm not familiar with, but you look at the site, it looks like it's jQuery site. So I'm sure that just looking at it right now, you could NPM it, or yarn it or bar it. But in this case here, you could easily npm it, so that looks pretty straightforward. There was one that I was looking into, and it looked pretty straightforward with all the so the tutorials here are pretty straightforward, but there was one I found, I'm not sure if it's on this one here, that had a really good background. But I used Jasmine in the past. I did teach Jasmine in a previous class. There's probably a video out there on my YouTube channel going through Jasmine, I'm sure. But anyways, this one right here, it was kind of hokey to me. It wasn't, I won't say it's the best. It was okay. I was a little unimpressed. I thought it was going to be better, but whatever. Karma, so it was something else before, and I can't remember the name. It's like Tuss something, and they bought it out. So there's a little trick when you do the npm on this one. But Karma is seems like a pretty decent one. Once again, I haven't experienced it itself. Jest is something, I think this is the one that Facebook uses. And this might be the one that actually had pretty good instructions too, if I'm correct. Let me see here. Yeah, this one had good instructions, I thought. This one I wanted to try out myself. I haven't had a chance, but like, for example, it walks you through, you could do an npm really quick. It shows you to write a function and call some.js. And then they have you do another one that is a test function. So what you do is in unit testing is you write your code, and then you write a test that goes with it. So it's using a test to validate that you have a positive versus a positive negative feedback. And then you're adding this to your JSON package. And then finally, you're going to run your yarn test or npm, probably npm run here. And it's going to provide this information. So this right here to me is very valuable information. It's good information. It walks you through. I think this has been the best one on instructions, I thought personally. So if you're looking for something to really grasp this, I think this would be a good one to jump on. But that's my opinion. I think I read that Facebook used it. I could be wrong. I don't know where I read that at, but it wasn't here. And then there's this last one here, Ava, which is so this one's probably, you have to go in and download it, and I'm sure there's something in the here. Yeah, so it gives you some information why Ava. It tells you why you use it, so you can npm it as well. So this might be another good one as well. Just create a test file, how to run your test. These are all pretty cool. So these are good ways to validate. So testing is definitely a need. And the thing about having all this stuff in place, it allows you to prove that, hey, you know what, you did your test cases, everything passed. Now these are actual test cases versus you might have someone that actually goes out and clicks on this and clicks on that and so forth. But this is physical testing, and this is very useful. A lot of times when we're doing something, promoting something to another environment, we'll require the group to provide their test case scenario, so we could upload that into the application, or into change management, and say, hey, these are tests that were used, so that if we ever get audited, which, knock on wood, I haven't got audited at work yet, but if that happens, it could be a pain. So that is this week's assignment. So it's a little bit unique. I want to provide you some type of lecture type of video or whatever, and that will be this week's assignment. So you do that, that's worth 150 points, and then you do the summary, and that's it. And then this right here just does the links for all that information. I think this class is almost over, so let's see, let me double check. Go to the syllabus. I don't remember. Let's see here. All right, what did I have here? So I had week 11, 13 was TBD, 14, so I think that was the last week. Final report, all right, so I had final report and presentation was the 22nd. So that leaves us, so we won't have to do the 22nd really, because we're not doing a presentation anymore. So that pretty much leaves us, we have April 7th class and the 14th, that's it. So The 14th will be our last class. So your last assignment will be due on the 21st of April. So we have 3 weeks left and everything's done. So getting that out, well, I'm thinking about that. So if there's anyone out there, and I don't know who you are, without looking, I don't know who you are, but if you owe me assignments and you want to make up assignments, you know that I'm fair with it, but please give me a heads up and say, hey, Jeff, I did assignment 3, 4, and 5, but you haven't checked it yet. Fair enough, because I'll validate it. I usually do one quick run through at the end. So what we're saying is the last day to hand in your homework is the 22nd at 6 p.m. So anything after 6 p.m., what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll start doing grades and I'll send it over. Anything after that I will not accept, because that means I have to get a change request form, and now that's going to be very difficult because they don't have it online to download, shockingly. So I have to physically get it from the building, and we're not allowed in the building. And so no one's there to send it to me, and the person that did do that, she left and went to another job at another college. Doesn't mean that there's no one available, but it's just that I'm kind of done. So I'm kind of stuck. I have to find out if there's an online form, but I don't want to do that. So I'm giving you, typically most of the professors here would be like, hey, you know what, if you didn't do the assignment, then you're screwed and you lose the points. But I'm not like that. I give you to the last day of the semester, and that's just how I am. So do that, you'll be fine. If not, I can't help you. I've helped you enough at that point. So, and remember, there's a pass-fail. So if you have questions on that, let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. It's not much, but I felt like I had to do something. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Good day. Be safe.